Okay, so now we're going to talk about care of the community cat after the surgery. So surgery is done, the veterinary team has done its work, they've done some tight stitches. Your program may vary in exactly when the cat is going to be released. Somewhere between 24 and 48 hours is probably the norm. But that may vary on an individual basis where some cats need extended care. So I'm not, again, covering what your specific program elements are. We're talking about how to safely process cats and how to safely and humanely house them after surgery. So the cat has gone through surgery, and so our options for recovery are everything that's here with me. So I've got the community cat den, I have the transfer cage, and I have the trap. And then I also have this device. It's sort of just a little hallway, a little gauntlet between two pieces of equipment. It allows us to extend the living space of a cat that's in our care. So some programs will have cats go through surgery, recover in a community cat den. So the cat's going to wake up here, and this door is going to be open. I can get it open, and I'm going to set the den inside of a cat condo, inside of an animal shelter, and the cat's going to have that space to move around. And that is going to be utilized most often, I think, in smaller programs generally, and in programs where the cat may be in care for longer periods. So this is great. The cat's in there. The cat can come out. Generally, the cat's going to come out when it's most quiet, maybe dead of night, either to relieve itself or to eat and drink. So there's food and there's a litter box, and that's great. The cat has those options. So the cat is in the condo, and again, our goal is to have zero physical contact with this animal for the entire duration of its stay, no matter how long or short that duration may be. So if we've gone with this option and the cat is recovering inside of the community cat den, enter I believe this is the den hook, fancy name. It's a stick with a hook on it. I'm going to use my hand to hold this down in this case because Buttons, the stuffed cat, has no weight whatsoever. But we're going to use the den hook to close the door. And that's literally the only purpose is that we avoid putting our hands in with the cats. And I think that that can seem, honestly, it can seem a little bit ridiculous that you would need this. And yet, if you've got volunteers in your programs that are helping to provide care, or you have animal caregivers who are under pressure to care for a lot of cats, it's easy to cut corners, and that's just when people get injured. They get injured when they're not paying attention, when they least expect it, and that paw comes out and it grabs you, or that cat that looked like it was completely fine and not going to be any issue came out and bit you. And that's what we're trying to avoid, and that's why we're layering in gloves whenever possible. We do need to acknowledge that gloves can be a fomite, so we have to think about that when we're doing any type of extended care. If I can simply use this den hook, which is very, very easy to clean and to disinfect, to close this door, and now I've greatly increased my margin of safety. If you incorporate that into your animal caregiver, into the mindset of your animal caregivers and your volunteers or whoever is doing the aftercare, simply use this tool. Now that's closed. Now I can use my hands, even my bare hands, to just lash that down. So I don't also have to have gloves. Gloves make us safer. Ideally, if we can just use this hook, and I believe there are a couple of lengths, you could certainly extend this so you could be outside of the condo even, and you simply reach in and close that. And then from here, I can either move to release, so I can pull the cat out and go release the cat, however that's going to work, or I can clean up, I can change the litter or whatever's happening, and whatever it is that I need to do, and then reverse the process. I am going to have this hooked, and then we can open our door and then go about our day. So that's how we're going to process the cat if we have the den inside of the cat condo. Another alternative is if we're doing relatively rapid release, we can simply have the cat recovering in the den with the hook on, covered, and go out and release when it's time to go. The disadvantage is that that's not very much space. The advantage is that it's very dark, which is important to relieve stress and reduce stress in cats. Also, the solid nature of the enclosure generally is just going to make it darker still. and quieter as well. And those are important attributes. So it's really nice to have the den as part of the process for those reasons. It's also extremely easy to disinfect, and that's important to note as well. Okay, so next up we're going to talk about the transfer cage. So if you're not interested in having multiple cage types, we can use the transfer cage for recovery just the same as we can the cat den. I think the big drawback to that is that this is open and exposed. But if you've got a quiet room that's dedicated to your community cats, a place that is going to be dark, quiet, not going to have any sort of predators around, no dogs, not a lot of people, just the dedicated caregivers for those animals, the transfer cage is perfectly adequate because there's no noise that would permeate this. It works perfectly well. But again, you have the disadvantage of relatively little space. But we do have traps in our program. So we can certainly recover the cat in the trap that it came in, or even a different trap. So the advantage of the trap is that we have a lot of space. So we can have some bedding in this trap. So the cat comes out of surgery. We're recovering the cat here. So we've got some bedding. We put the cat inside. Fantastic. We've got a lot of space. Simply cover that again. You're going to have a lot of laundry to do in your program, but that's okay because you can clean that laundry and you can disinfect everything. Works well. So we've got modularity built into our process here. So we've used our trap to catch the cat. Now we're using it again to recover the cat. I think there's some clean advantages to doing that. If I want to have more space for the cat, I can actually use either the community cat den or the transfer cage in conjunction with the trap. And that gives me the option of moving the cat into one while I clean the other, which is important, or putting food and water in one and just giving them additional space. You can build it in however makes sense for you and your organization and your needs and what your exact concerns are for your cats. Obviously, we can't give the cats as much space as they need. Something in the range of 10 square feet per cat, but we're only going to have them for a short period of time. But we need to give them a little bit more space so that they can behave a little bit more naturally and so that we can clean up after them. So notice again that I'm wearing gloves because there's plenty of exposure when we're doing this process. At any point we can get a scratch or a bite. So we've got gloves on during this process. It doesn't need to take very long. And again, these gloves, these armor hands are very, very comfortable. They do fit very true to size. So what I'm going to do is introduce you to this little piece of equipment. I call it the gauntlet. It's like a little hallway. The actual description and name are in the video description, as well as the link of where you can find it on the Tomahawk website. So what this does is allow us to connect two different cage types so that we can expand our living space. And the way I think of this, in our sanctuary and shelter in Kuwait, when I was working there for a long period of time, we had a lot of baboons, and baboons are very, very difficult and relatively dangerous to work with. So we really didn't want any of the caregivers going inside of the cage with them. So we had gigantic enclosures with a huge pipe that connected the two, actually underground, with huge gauntlet doors. So what we would do is clean an enclosure and prep the food in that enclosure, and then from the outside we could manipulate the doors, and all of the baboons would run through the tunnel. They'd go get their food, we'd close the doors and then clean the other cage. And so we're alternating cages every other day. So this is basically like that. We have the option of moving the cat over, or we have the option of simply giving them additional space. But obviously on a much smaller scale than a giant baboon enclosure. So what we're going to do is remove the transfer cage door, and there are different sizes depending on what type of equipment you're trying to connect. So the cat den is going to be a different size and a different part number. Again, everything in the description, and so on. You can connect, I believe, two traps, a transfer cage and a trap, a den and a trap. And I want to say there's one other thing that I'm just not thinking of. Could just be different sizes of transfer cage. But there's a lot of flexibility and versatility. Just make sure that you get the correct size for the exact caging that you're using. So what we now need to do is isolate the door of the trap. So you see Buttons. Buttons is absolutely ready to escape out of here. So I'm going to take my trap divider, and I'm going to go through the side of the trap, and I'm going to go straight out. I'm going to make sure that the tines go all the way out so that I've got a solid wall. Okay, and the only reason I've got the cat this exposed again, is just so that you can see in the video. So now I can remove this door with virtually no risk whatsoever. These tines are very strong. Doesn't mean that a cat can't try to get through them. You don't have unlimited time, and you've got to look at how fractious the cat is as well. You could certainly, if you're very concerned, add in another trap divider in front of that one. A little tight right there. You got to move it around, and you can double up, you can triple up, whatever you need to do, however concerned you are. In this case, I'm not super worried about buttons escaping. So now what I'm going to do is lift my transfer cage, get that lined up, fits nice and snugly, and now I've got an extended living space. So if I've got a litter box over here and I've got food and water over there with some bedding in between, I've basically got the basic needs of this cat met for a relatively short period of time. Again, we're looking at the 12-hour plus window. So we have surgery in the morning, the animal's with us all day and night, and then scheduled for release the following morning, and that's still a great deal of time. So we want to have some options. So this really gives us those options, and now we can, if we need to, let's say I need to now clean the trap because the cat has been with us, it's end of day, that first surgery day, and the cat has made a mess, one side or the other. However you choose to configure it is completely up to you. This could be the bed, that could be the food, and then the litter box, or however you want to do it. Again, we would simply process the cat just as we do on the surgery side, using the trap dividers to isolate the cat, so that we can get it on one side or the other. We can sweep the cat over if we need to. We can also isolate in place. So I can simply insert my dividers wherever I need to. Again, I want to go all the way down, and I can now remove this, reach in, clean something, and then remove this again. So however you need to manipulate the cat, you are able to do so with these pieces of equipment. It really gives you a lot of flexibility in care. So I can isolate, and now I can open that end of the trap and I can clean out something from there. I can isolate anywhere along this process, including on either side of the cat if I need to. It just depends on what you're presented with when you get here. It's a little harder to get the dividers in on the working end of the trap. Sometimes it helps to line it up so that you can actually see exactly where each one is going to go. And I'm having a complete failure. There we go. One of them's a little bent. It's in the wrong hole. There we go. And that will happen. Don't let it frustrate you. It's only metal. So every once in a while, it's just not going to go all the way across the way that you want it to, and you need to try something else. The bigger holes are way easier. You saw how much easier that was to get in there, straight through. So just play with it. Just know what the limiting factors are. You're not going to be able to get through the gauntlet either, but I can very, very quickly and easily go on this side and isolate wherever I need to. I really love this little piece of equipment. It's such a small thing. If you're looking at the Tomahawk catalog or the website, it looks so inconsequential. And yet when you start thinking about care of cats after surgery, it can really make a huge difference at a very little cost, because you already need these things in order to run the rest of your program. So adding in this one little thing to give you this many options really just makes a ton of sense to me. So now if you've got shelving that this fits on, you can put quite a few cats in there, and have just a nice recovery area, and be able to do anything that you need to do with those cats. Again, keeping in mind our 3 core tenets, which are being safe, being effective, and being humane. We're going to be all 3 all the time. So that is care and handling, processing of community cats.